so I'm talking about web, TV series, or web series, essentially, that kind of thing right now. In those, because really we haven't discussed this. Everybody here is a screenwriter, but who knows? It might be an opportunity for them later on. In those, so the concept's important, obviously, because you've got to be able to get out there quickly. You need some kind of hook that people are going to talk about. What else is important to you? What else do you want to see?
For new media, for just in general?
Yeah, for new media. Are you talking 5-minute episodes, 3-minute episodes, 6? What?
We generally do 5-minute episodes.
Yeah.
In general, we like believability, and like limit your what do you call it, fantasy elements, but like your givens. No, you're like, okay, I'm going to tell a story about this guy who terraforms this planet, and he finds these aliens, and you're like, okay, I only want 1 or 2 things that I have to extend my reason for, and give them to me very early on, and then the rest of it should sort of make sense in a real world. It should be there was an article about Michael J. Straczynski in Variety, I think, yesterday, and he was talking about no matter what genre you're in, you're still telling the same story, and that should always apply. But for online, online scripts, by the way, are a great tool to hone your craft, because it has been so hard to tell a story, and we're still trying to figure out the 3-act structure in 5 minutes. Because we had like we had this high school comedy and all these characters, but it's funny because you get studio executives saying, too much information, slow it down. And then you get 14-year-old girls saying, so cute, do you have another episode? And so you're like, well, if it's for the 14-year-old girl, then we should just leave it as is. I mean, it's like a barrage of information, stories, and characters, but they're willing to take the ride, and they're willing to watch it over and over again, and it's this weird sort of TiVo generation where, like, what did he just say? And you can go back. It's being really, really quick, very concise. A lot of, we have a writer who, he's a great sort of romantic comedy, sideways sort of writer. And he wrote the 5 pilot for us, and it had a lot of words and a lot of like actions and subtleties, and I'm like, no, you can't be subtle in online. She slaps him in the face, and he's hurt, and he almost wants to cry because he loves her so much, and that's it, and you're done, and that's done in 10 seconds. And he's like, okay, I get it.
It's a different world, it really is.
Yeah. And then there's the other model of if we can fund the whole thing, which was like our animated projects. Our animated project was written by a TV writer who had been a staff writer. He was a writer's assistant and then turned into staff writer on like George Lopez and Drew Carey. And when the shows ended, was out of work. And I met him just through a friend, and he had this crazy little Batman-esque sort of pilot he gave me. And I'm like, I can't do anything with this, but I have this other thing that maybe you can help me with. And we ended up writing a 50-page feature with 10 beats in it, 10 clear beats, and 10 clear cliffhangers. And once the animation is done, and it will exist as 50 minutes, we can chop it up, and it won't be definitely 5-minute chunks, but we can sort of cut it at the cliffhangers, and now it's serialized. And it's not really built as episodic, and it's not even really built as feature because it has 10 beats in it, and hopefully that'll work.
Yeah.
I mean, we're testing all that stuff out.
Yeah, and it's a way to make the budget work and everything else. That's cool. That's good. Well, any other thoughts on this? I know you have lots, but let me ask you.
Yes.
Well, were you going to say something?
No, I was trying to think of something.
Okay. Any recommendations you would give writers on just looking at new media? Because I think this is pretty new to everybody here.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, we'll move on.
No, I would just say, write what you like to write, and write it for the format that you are excited about, because I think it comes across. And I think that there's a lot of scripts that we've read where we're like, okay, you just wrote a $60 million movie that has, car chases and exploding churches. Would you write the $10 million Sci-Fi Channel version? Would you be okay with that? But we've come across that opportunity where a director who has really no credits but a lot of talent, we're like, are you willing to do this really cool little thing, and we'll pay you for now, and it's a month of your time? And they're like, no, I don't want to ruin my credits. Like, okay, and we're done with our project, and it's getting a lot of attention, even by the studio, and they still aren't working. And so, right now, I think in the next couple of years, you can repurpose your content for a lot of different things. And I think if you think of your stories as universes, this is the feature film, and if you did it online, you could tell this story, and I'm not going to say video game because that's a little too complicated. This could be the comic book, and think in terms of sort of cross-pollination of the mediums. When you, it's sort of like when an actor is giving his headshot, they're always told, give the headshot that best represents the character you want to play, because casting directors don't have the time to think, well, what would they look like if they wore glasses? They want to know right away. So if you give them, you're like, I have this great spec script, and it's about this guy who gets revenge because his girl was raped on vacation. But it could also be this great comic book about this cop who this happened to, and his wife died, and now he becomes the Punisher. And you don't even have to conceptualize them through, but say, I know this can live in different mediums if you like the concept, but you really don't have the finances or the time or whatever to develop it here. Maybe you can repurpose it for something else. And we've gotten that has come across our shores a lot of time where we're like, this might be a really good feature, or you know what if we repurpose this for online, get an audience, and then bring it back to this feature, because right now the studios don't believe in this.
But if it's proven online,
right. Or what if you do a sci-fi series, TV series, instead of an action feature about this concept? I think there's a lot of different things you can do now, other than the big theatrical release blockbuster studio movie.